The Churchville Schoolhouse opens the door to the best education in history. Visitors to the Churchville Schoolhouse take a step back in time to watch history unfold in a restored National Register of Historic Places property that dates to the Civil War era. Students of today walk in the footsteps of local farm children from the early days of DuPage County for an authentic living history experience led by a schoolmarm of the early 1900s. A visit to the Churchville Schoolhouse is hands-on, educational, and fun. Participants use slate chalkboards and McGuffey readers for the day's lessons. And children will be asked to follow proper classroom etiquette. Reading, writing, and arithmetic are practiced, and students test their skills during an old-fashioned spelling bee. And of course, no school day is complete without recess featuring games of the early 1900s. The schoolhouse is a popular place for scouts and day camps too. Group visits can also be arranged for service clubs, tour groups, and other adult organizations. The Churchville Schoolhouse Living History program is operated by the Elmhurst Historical Museum. Call the museum today to book a field trip or find out more information. Call 630-833-1457 or visit our website at churchvilleschoolhouse.org. The Churchville Schoolhouse is waiting to open the doors for your school or community group. Plan a memorable learning experience today for the best education in history.
Welcome to Elmhurst Time Travelers, where we explore local Elmhurst history. I'm Ken Bartels, your host, and today we're going to explore some recent history, or relatively recent history, the Elmhurst St. Patrick's Day Parade on Spring Road. And to do that, we have three people actively involved with the parade: Rich Reichert of the Community Bank of Elmhurst, Scott Lamort of the Conservation Foundation, and Jim O'Connell of Elmhurst Garage Door Services. And gentlemen, welcome to Elmhurst Time Travelers in the historic Churchville Schoolhouse. And I want to start with a pretty basic question: is the idea of a St. Patrick's Day Parade, and I'm looking at Jim because I know you've been involved the longest. When did the idea first come up and how did that go?
The first time it came up was in 1996, spring in, around Thanksgiving. It involved Dave Agnew, Doug Kuster, Jack Allen, and Charity Pagoni at that time. And a few people had rolled the idea out of having a St. Patrick's Day Parade, and it just failed. And Kuster, it was the first time he heard about it, and he goes, "I'll bet you a drink I could get it done next year." And that's where it started. And that's where I ended up being, because I ended up walking in the spring, and about an hour later, and he said, "You're involved." I said, "Good."
And the first parade happens then the very next March.
March of 1997.
4 months, 3 months later.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens though? It's, Doug says, okay, we can get this done, I can get this done, I'm gonna get a lot of people incorporated. What were the first things that started to happen at that point?
Tried to get a permit from the city, they laughed at us, but that got done. Then we tried to get entrance to participate in the parade, and then somebody had the idea that the first parade had to go an hour. If it was shorter than an hour, I guess we would fail. The first parade had 3 dump trucks, things that are not in the parade now. We wouldn't even welcome in now. And the first parade started in Lincoln School parking lot, went down Villette, went up Spring, and ended just past the Prairie Path. And that was the first parade, and it got a very good crowd. Very good. It was very well received. So then from there, it just went along and became bigger than anybody ever dreamed about.
Right. We're going to talk about that size. What kind of challenges? I mean, you know, the permits, which of course you eventually received. Eventually, though, the city gets on board with the parade. I know Mayor Marcucci, at that point, Mayor Marcucci was quite interested in the parade as it started to mature.
The first year, the city did not help us at all financially. Actually, the J.C.'s gave us a $5,000 grant. And with that, we were able to secure the Shriners and 2 pipe bands. So that's where that $5,000 went. And then everything else is volunteers. Cleanup was volunteer. Couldn't pay for anybody to clean up for it. We did not get the city street sweeper that year. And it got all put together because Kuster was a maven. He could get people together and to do things. He was very good at it.
When did the two of you become involved with the parade? Rich, Scott?
Well, I was involved as a participant from the first year. I work at Community Bank of Elmhurst, and we were an entrant in year 1 and have been an entrant in the parade ever since. In the beginning, we just marched and handed out some candy and had a bunch of our employees and their children march in the parade. Later on, 3 or 4 years later, we secured where we actually sponsored the York High School marching band, and we've sponsored them ever since. And we think it's important that our local community high school band marches in the parade every year. So we help make that happen, and with a lot of other people also.
And Scott, I know you're relatively recent.
I moved into the south part of Elmhurst about 5 or 6 years ago. And while I had attended the parade, I became a little more regular about it when I moved into that neighborhood. And it kind of went from there until a year ago when Jim asked me to help out. And you know, as a resident of this town for almost 20 years, I feel it's important to give back to things like the parade. So I'm happy to be a part of it.
So how quickly did it grow?
The next year.
The very next year,
yeah,
so 98.
98, it doubled. It doubled in entrance. It doubled in that we said goodbye to the dump trucks. We said the second parade went 2 hours. And that was by shooing people along and getting to move. The problem was the second year, it was very warm. And when the warmer it is, the slower the people move. They're not in a hurry. And it went very well. And then from there, it's just taken off on its own.
Yeah. Of course, a couple of stories about having been in the parade. If you're in the front of the line, the parades are not all that long for you. If you're in the back of the line, it's a very long parade. The other story I've heard as it started to grow, one of the things that I would hear is, given the tremendous crowds and this kind of, it would have been easier to line the parade up and have the participants march around the parade because of the length of the staging and the setups. So it grows quickly. It becomes one of the largest, second, third largest in the state, certainly in metropolitan Chicago. What accounts for that growth, do you think? Rich?
I think that it's what I call the first rite of spring. It's not really in spring, it's at the end of winter, but we've all been cooped up for months and months, this winter being no exception. There's lots of snow on the ground, it's cold out, people aren't out talking with their neighbors, and all of a sudden there's this opportunity to get out, see your neighbors for the first time in months, celebrate in the streets. Sometimes it's warm, sometimes it's cold, it doesn't matter. Sometimes there's snow on the ground, it still doesn't matter. People are out and people really look forward to getting out of their houses after being cooped up for months. And I would say the majority of the people at the parade are Elmhurst residents. Sure, there are people from out of town, both that are entrants in the parade and some of the folks watching. But the people in South Elmhurst, I think for the most part, really embrace it. And I know I do. I live a block off of the staging area and I love it. It's just incredible, the people that are moving around on parade morning and people who want to line up early. I mean, they're given the opportunity to line up an hour early and they're lining up 2 hours early. That's part of the celebration.
I wonder too if it's certainly the end of winter, and actually, while this question pops into my head, what would be the circumstance that would cause the parade to not happen? Is there a scenario for it to be canceled? Weather's come up a couple of times already, so I'm just curious as to what that call consists of.
A hurricane.
A hurricane.
It would take the fire department say it's unsafe to be in the street.
Okay.
Because we tell people we're going, unless the fire department says it's not safe. So that's whatever that would take.
The parade's several weeks out, of course, and there's a lot of snow around. So we could clearly have one of those circumstances where it's a little chilly. Now, granted, a lot can change between now and the parade. I know there's a planning committee. All of you are representative of a part of that, of course. There's a planning committee. Who's in charge of the marshaling? Who puts the order together? How are the volunteers utilized, and how many volunteers are there on parade day?
On parade day, there's about 160. We get 100 volunteers from Elmhurst College, athletes, which if we didn't have them, we'd be in a lot of trouble. They are crowd control. They tell people where they have to line up. And we used to start doing it back to the Cooster days. We used to do it with our friends, where our friends weren't so eager to go help. Once they found a nice warm place, they didn't want to leave.
And the parade got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right. And then Charity Pagoni Algram went to Elmhurst College, and we got the football players and some of the other athletes from Paul Carone, and they're indentured servants. They go out and work, regardless of the weather, they're there, and they know they can't leave, and they do their job very, very well. Todd Benson's in charge of PR. Melissa Hahn's now in charge of raising funds. The parade costs about $45,000 to put it on correctly. Jim May's in charge of the lineup. Cleanup is, we have the Boy Scouts. They're in charge of cleaning up, and I have to oversee it all. So if somebody doesn't do their job, it's my fault.
Now you mentioned the funding and the $45,000. How does that get put together?
The city gives us a grant of $10,000. Then the rest we all have to raise sponsorship through the parade. There's silver sponsors, gold sponsors, platinum and emerald, and it costs $100 to be in the parade, which first got fought, but it's a very expensive day to pay for everything. 20 to 22,000 of it goes toward entertainment. People are amazed that you have to pay for the bands. They don't come for free, So the Shriners alone are $7,000 a year. So, and there's 12 acts, 12 Shriner acts. So that's where the money goes. We spend $3,000 on porta potties, which we get it in kind from international contractors, which is very generous of them. But if we ever had to go pay for them, that'd be $3,000. So that's part of $45,000. Elmhurst Community Bank supplies the jackets for all the sponsors, all the marshals, not sponsors, marshals. That's very generous. So it takes a lot from a lot of different people in the community to help out.
What time on parade day do the marshals and the organizers?
Elmhurst
When's the day
College
start?
Elmhurst College kids get at Silverado at 9. They're out of there by 9:15. So they're on the street from 9:15, 9:20 till 3 o'clock. I'm on the street at 6 to check the route to see if anything's out of line. And I have other people who are there at 6 and 7 o'clock checking everything. And we don't get done because we have 120 no parking signs we have to take down when the parade's over. So that's about 4 o'clock. So from 6 to 4, it's a full day.
Now this parade's going to be number 18, and that in and of itself is a little astonishing to me, having been at all of them in one capacity or another. But to you who've been more directly involved in the planning and organizing, or even the attending, Scott, does it seem like there's been 18
No.
St. Patrick's Day parades?
On one side, no, it seems like it just started a couple of years ago. But when I stop and think back, it's been here as long as I've been around this town. So I guess in a lot of ways it has, but it just seems to have taken on a bigger impact.
Well, it started out as
years.
kind of a curiosity. The first year particularly it was a curiosity. In the second year it was curious because, wait a minute, this was this little intimate parade, and suddenly now who are all these people and why are all these people standing in the street? But at the same time, Rich's notion of rite of spring or end of winter, or however you want to phrase that, I think has a spot on. We're gonna talk about the business community of Spring Road and their involvements in embracing after the break. But what about the neighborhood itself? The folks who live on Spring Road or in close proximity. How do they embrace the parade?
I think I can speak to that fairly well, and did a little research prior to the show. When you look at the demographics of Elmhurst, there's a high population of Irish Catholics that live in our town. I grew up a mile away from the Southside Irish Parade. I know I've grown up around St. Patty's Day parades. That's a recipe for success. I think the Irish Catholics in our community enjoy the opportunity to come out and have something that feels like it's theirs. It's our holiday, and that's a good thing. And I'm not Irish myself, so I just tack on. Everybody's Irish that day, right, Jim?
Sure, sure.
So, but I think when you put a family-focused event like the Elmhurst Parade, which I think is a strong benefit of the parade, that it is geared for family attendance, you have something everybody can rally behind.
I think it's interesting to look up and down Spring Road on parade morning and parade afternoon and see how many homes are having celebrations in their yard. They bring their friends from both in Elmhurst and outside of Elmhurst, and they make their corned beef and cabbage, and they have kids out there. Probably every 7th or 8th house has a celebration along Spring Road. So they really make a day of it, and I would say for the most part it's embraced by the folks in the neighborhood.
Jim?
Oh yeah, it's very much. If you take, say, my golf cart and I'm going up checking everything, 15 minutes before the parade, there's no one on the street, on the curbs. And it's like that, because they're all in the parties. They're all in the houses. They're not coming out.
Yeah, they're all local, or
Yeah.
a lot of them are local.
Or they're coming from out of town to go to somebody's local's house.
Yeah, yeah.
And as I go and taking down the no parking signs, to see the tents 5 blocks out, 6 blocks out from Spring Road, yeah, with all the cars and everything else. Yes, the community embraces it very much.
I think I was involved doing cable work for the Elmhurst Cycling Classic last summer when it was like 100 degrees or whatever it was that day. But I remember having a conversation with some of the organizers of that event, and they actually spoke to, starting small. And they had good crowds, but I know they feel they can do better. But they actually cited the second year, third year, and growth of the St. Patrick's Day Parade as kind of a growth model for them. They want their cycling classic to be a summer version of a community embraced event such as this St. Patrick's Day Parade. So, 2 questions before we close out the first portion of the program. Number 1, 18 years later, would you get involved with it at the very beginning if you had the option? You were already there. What about you two?
Absolutely. I just love this event. And in the beginning, I liked it. Now I love it. It's one of my favorite days of the year. I very much enjoy it, and I wish I were part of the planning in the beginning, but I wasn't, and a lot of my friends were, though. Yeah.
You were there, though.
Oh, I definitely agree. I mean, the one thing that can make a bad weather day go away is a parade like that. I mean, I've been in parades where it's been in the 30-something degree range, and you just kind of forget that it's cold out. Once you start having fun, everything goes away.
It's the happiest day in town. Yeah. So why not? Definitely.
So the follow-up question to that then is, why did it not happen earlier than it did? Because the folks that you cited as the organizers, they were all on Spring Road long before 1996.
It's like a lot of things, why they never start. It took a taskmaster like Kuster to get everybody to be a curmudgeon, to push, you know, and he did. And he worked a ton of hours the first year.
Well, I know that.
A ton of hours, because he did it all himself. He wouldn't let anybody else help. And then somehow I worked my way up into class. Yeah, so, but yeah, it was because of him. Without Doug Kuster, this parade does not start. I honestly believe that.
Oh, I believe that too. This will be difficult, I know, but I say that, maybe not. Worst weather year?
I think it.
I mean,
I believe it was.
There's been snow and cold. What about rain and?
We've had rain right before the beginning of the parade, and I think it might have been even 2 years ago where it was raining right before the parade, and about the time the parade started, it stopped raining. You know, the weather didn't get what I would call pleasant, but it stopped raining. And I think it was the first year of the parade, because I remember we were lined up by Lincoln School when the temperature was in the mid-20s and the wind chill was around 12 or 13 above, and that's pretty cold.
Yeah. Now, you and I have this bond. I know the three amigos walked in the rain.
We did. We did.
And I don't remember what year that was anymore,
and that was the year that it stopped raining right about the time the parade started, or
Yeah.
at least we started marching.
Yeah. Scott, a weather story for you?
No, I remember the one Rich is talking about, and the one that you're talking about. I do remember that one. And yeah, it was unpleasant, but not enough to put the damper. I mean,
Yeah.
people came out on that one. I remember it being fairly well attended in spite of the weather. And you know, Jim mentioned it would take a hurricane to stop the parade, and I think I've seen hurricanes at our parade, so I'm not sure about that.
Different hurricane.
Yeah. Hottest?
Oh, we've had some very warm days. But when people ask me what I want temperature, I want it 28 degrees, blue skies, no wind. It can't rain. We've had a couple snow flurries coming down the parade. That's kind of majestic. I like that. But the one year, yeah, the rain started before and ended right after. And for the record, Dominic Panico, Deputy Chief, he's in charge of the weather. So if you have an issue with the weather, that is who you're supposed to call.
Good. Well, does he
he
job
knows
that out on other events? Because we've got some other work.
No,
for
he's
him.
only responsible for the parade. It's all he's taking responsibility for.
All right.
He's on the committee. That's his only responsibility on the committee.
On that note, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the impact of St. Patrick's Day Parade on the businesses of Spring Road and some of the morphing that's gone on over the years with the parade. This is Elmhurst Time Travelers. We're talking about the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Elmhurst. The 18th one is coming up in just a few weeks. We'll be right back.
Visit elmhurst.org to explore the new City of Elmhurst website. Find out the latest Elmhurst news, pay utility bills and parking tickets, report concerns, and much more. Elmhurst.org is an ideal way to discover what Elmhurst offers your business, your family, your life.
The Elmhurst Historical Museum, located in downtown Elmhurst, is proud to present award-winning exhibits for visitors of all ages. Our Adult Tea Time Talk series, family programs, and special events make learning about history interesting and fun. Admission is free, and on-site parking is available. Visit the Elmhurst Historical Museum soon. Call us today, or go to our website for the latest program details.
Welcome back to Elmhurst Time Travelers, where we're talking about the St. Patrick's Day Parade with three gentlemen who are actively involved with it. Rich Reichert, Scott Lamort, and Jim O'Connor. Jim, I want to start with you because you've been with the parade the longest, which was evidenced in the first half of the show as we were talking. Your view of why the Spring Road merchants have embraced this parade. Now, obviously, there's literally thousands of people walking up and down Spring Road, which can be good for business, wouldn't necessarily have to be. How have the various businesses embraced the parade?
If you take somebody like Scott Algram Funeral Home, who cannot operate that day, he has to be closed that day because it's just location. He embraces it. He gives us his parking lot for handicap parking. He gives it for a band to play before the parade. He embraces. Obviously, the restaurants and bars do very well. The White Hen does very well, 7-Eleven now. The bank, they again serve hot chocolate and they embrace it. I would think the beauty shop and the cleaners and the bike shop and the Phillips Flowers, they get people to walk by that probably didn't even realize that they're there. So I think all of merchants embrace it. In the beginning, a couple of them didn't, but now all of them do. We don't have any trouble with them now.
Promotions you can think of that individual businesses do, and any of you?
In
Specific
particular, as Jim mentioned, the restaurants and bars take advantage of it, and I know Jack Island at Silverado puts up a tent and has entertainment and really goes all out on that day.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I seem to recall over the course of years that a lot of like the realtors and people like that use it as a customer appreciation event. So an on-site event where their clientele can come and enjoy the parade and be visible to the business.
So when did the double-decker buses and the active involvement of other areas of Elmhurst get involved with the parade? Because I know there are other establishments that, if you will, get involved with the parade by getting people there and getting them involved.
And those are the restaurants and bars in town, and they all do very well. One, we have actually a lot of communities that come by the train, so they need to get back. And then I know Fitz's Lanes, Pints, and Snuggery will have shuttle service from their locations to the parade and then back. And then as far as the double-decker buses, those came from Fitz's. They started the second year of the parade.
So it goes back that far.
Moving people down and
Sure.
then bringing them back.
Yeah.
So yes.
Why has the parade more often than not been the week before St. Patrick's Day?
Entertainment is one. Two, we give all the restaurants and bars 2 weekends. And under my watch,
They got the parade weekend and the, if you will, the real festival, the real date
under,
anyway.
Under my watch, we actually had the parade after St. Patty's Day, which my mother and Mary Fran Dunn from Doc Ryan's wanted to lynch me. We had it on St. Joseph's Day. But if we ran it on the day of St. Patty's Day, the bars and restaurants could not keep up with product. We found that out too.
Well, and the competition for entertainment too.
That's another one, yes.
We're getting acts, I'm sure, that would otherwise be.
They go downtown.
Right.
Because they can get more money. The Shannon Rovers cut us deal half of what they get paid downtown. The Chicago Highlanders, we get half of what they get downtown the following week. So yes.
It's an opportunity for them to have exposure in another parade, and as you say, an opportunity for Elmhurst to celebrate twice as much.
Correct.
We talked about when things start up on parade morning and how long they go into the evening. What kind of challenges does putting on a parade that involves not only this many people involved in the organization and structure and implementation, but the crowd control aspects, the invariable things that happen when you have large crowds and they're having a good time, and there's alcohol involved, sometimes just the raw number of people. What kind of challenges does that present for the parade organizers?
As far as me, none. It falls on the police, and they do a very, very good job. Again, that we have the 100 kids from Elmhurst College, and again, without them, we'd be in a lot of trouble. But the police, we'll put 4 football players on one corner, and then they work with the police, and the police tell them what they're doing. So it works out very well that way. But as far as crowd control, we're just following what the police tell us to do.
I think it's fair to say, and I've been at, if I haven't been at all of them, I don't remember the ones I haven't been at, but very low incident circumstances. I mean, I can remember a few, but by and large, people are there to have a good time. Many, if not, well, certainly not all, but many of the crowd are local, so they live here. So how do the two of you see that situation?
Well, Ken, I think a big factor in the demeanor of the crowd is it's a family event, and many of the people have their children out there, and that makes a really big difference. And it's their neighborhood, it's their town. They don't want to see problems.
I echo that sentiment. The parade is our parade. You don't want to mess up something that is your own. And there's a sense of ownership, I think, within the neighborhood about the parade.
Now, personally, this is a question I've asked the Memorial Parade organizers on more than one occasion, but as someone who's been involved with the cable coverage of the St. Patrick's Day Parade as well, what causes these gaps? You'll look down the parade route, and it'll be event, and the next thing you know, you look up and you can't see the next event, and we're all on the same street. How does that happen?
Every year, I ask the police department for tasers, and they deny.
Deny them appropriately.
You can only do what you can to get people to move.
So it's simply they're just having a good time as members of the parade,
or they're daydreaming or whatever. But yes, it's and for somebody who cannot participate in the day until the parade's over, yes, I would like everyone to stay in line and march accordingly. And it's attention deficit with people. It can only last so long, so you can't get the parade. Parade should be perfectly an hour and a half. Should not go more than that. And as you know, as an announcer, it gets closer to 2 hours sometimes than that. And if everybody kept in line, it would be over an hour and a half.
I mean, that's not a complaint on my part, because it's so much fun to do parades, because you've got this wealth of age groups, as you said, Rich, a few minutes ago. Scott too, is a family affair. So you've got folks marching in the parade who are in upper years, and then you've got kids who are probably they walk by, they're in their first parade, or they're seeing their first parade in many cases when the camera crew pans around the crowd. So it is an absolutely fun family circumstance with a lot of other things going on around it. I'm gonna shift to something that's dear to all of your hearts, but dearer to some of your hearts than others. When does the Elmhurst Armpit Orchestra arrive on the scene at the St. Patrick's Day Parade?
I think I can address that best. In 2009, chairman of the parade committee, Jim O'Connor, and I were at a wedding reception for some local folks that are members of the Spring Road Business Association, Charity and Scott Algram. And we were talking, and Jim said that the budget was kind of tight that year, and a very entertaining entrant in the parade had been the lawn chair dads.
I was going to say the lawn chair dads.
The lawn chair dads are a great group, but they raise money for charities, and they're pretty expensive to get in the parade. And so myself and Steve Algram and Scott Sutherland were talking with Jim, and we came up with an idea where we could have our own entrant in the parade that was the Elmhurst Armpit Orchestra. And we thought really long and hard about what we could do that was entertaining. And what we did is we decided to start a kazoo band. And I have our standard issue kazoo here with me. And
looks formidable.
Right, so that was in 2009, and we met about a week before the parade to decide what we were going to play with our kazoos. None of us were musicians. And the gentleman on my left, Scott Lamort, was the only one who had been in the band in high school. So immediately he was elected our drum major. And that's where it all started. We were very entertaining, and now we're going into our 6th parade.
My mother's very proud of me.
I would only imagine. So now what challenges, as the leader of this distinguished group, what challenges does this present?
Lack of musical talent is typically our biggest challenge.
That's the first criteria?
No, your first criteria, Rich, is that you have to be able to
steam a mirror.
Thank you. And we are an all-male orchestra.
Although we do have a female support group.
We do.
We call them our groupies.
Right. We've evolved into...
Of course you do.
Yeah, of course. We've evolved into an orchestra with a variety of homemade instruments. You're not allowed to play what we call a real instrument, but you are allowed to make your own. So we have a paint bucket percussion section. We have, oh my goodness,
washboard.
We have a washboard player.
We have vuvuzelas, which are the obnoxious
Long
horns that you
soccer
hear
horn.
at soccer games.
A stump fiddler, because every orchestra should have a stump
Stump
fiddler.
fiddle is the official instrument of Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and our friend Kevin Diamond plays that.
Remarkably well.
And we have the most popular instrument, which is the cowbell.
Right.
You need more cowbell.
And we practice optionally, of course, once a year prior to the parade. And we typically have a lot of trouble with things like lining up and walking straight lines, the usual.
And then the world's largest drum.
Well,
Now this is just last year, right, or the year before?
we introduced the world's largest drum last year. And I've always kidded Scott that if we were ever to land our inspiration, and our inspiration is actor, comedian Bill Murray, if we were ever able to get him to come to the parade and lead our group, that Scott was out and Bill Murray was in.
Bill regularly watches this program.
Where are you, Bill?
Yeah.
So anyway, I had been telling Scott that for years, and last year we were sitting around trying to come up with a way that we could actually get Bill Murray to come. And I came up with this goofy idea to build the world's largest drum. Now, it's not certified by Guinness or anything like that, but the world's largest drum is claimed to be housed at Purdue University, and their band has it, and it's 8 feet in diameter and about 4 feet wide. So we decided we'd build a drum that's 9 feet in diameter and 4 feet wide. And like I said, we're not worried about having it certified as the world's largest, but if Purdue University can call theirs the world's largest, we're going to call ours the world's largest. So we painted Bill Murray's likeness on the side of the drum, and we started our PR machine to try and get Bill to come last year. And we did get in touch with his brother, but we never actually got in touch with Bill. But we're not going to stop. We're going to continue until we can get Bill Murray. We don't want anybody else. We don't want Tom Dreesen. We want Bill Murray.
Very well. Now, as I understand it, during the parade last year, there was an incident with the world's largest drum.
There was, and it's funny you asked earlier about gaps in the parade. The parade had just started underway, and we had actually transported the drum from a special secret location where it's stored a couple of miles away. We had rolled it over to the beginning of the parade that morning and had no problems. Well, the minute the parade started, we'd gotten about a block and a half, and sure enough, we got a flat tire on the drum. But we had an incredible pit crew that my son Nick was one of the people on the pit crew, and Chris Thompson and Vince Gatto. They got that tire changed in a matter of 30 seconds, and we closed that gap down right away.
30 seconds?
Right. We had a spare, thank God.
Okay, well, it became it provided a lot of interesting publicity for the parade leading up to it last year, I recall. So it'd be interesting. How are you planning any special outreaches to Bill Murray?
Yeah, we're still working on how to get in touch with Bill Murray, and we've got a couple of people that are helping us. We also have another exciting announcement. We've got a new instrument that's going to be added to our repertoire this year. It's called the hand zoo. And we have a gentleman who's a former judge, and I'm not going to say who it is at this point. You'll see some PR in the near future, who is going to play the hand zoo. And you'll have to wait for the article to really see how what that's all about. We also, you may know, we have a little publicity that we do. We name a Distinguished Service Award recipient from the Elmhurst Armpit Orchestra every year. The inaugural recipient was Chairman Jim O'Connor. And we also have our own Elmhurst Armpit Orchestra Queen. And Jim's wife, Mary.
This is not the JC's Emerald Queen.
No. This is our own Queen. And Jim's wife, Mary, was our inaugural Queen. And our reigning Queen is Beverly Crone, whose husband Paul helps us with the parade, and or helps Jim with the parade to get volunteers.
And who won the Distinguished Service Award?
Right, he won the Distinguished Service Award last year. Paul did.
Okay, well, the parade this year's on March the 8th,
Yes.
which is not that many weeks out. If someone watching this is interested in getting involved with the parade in terms of helping out or whatnot, how would they go about?
They would call 834-0300, area code 630, Elmhurst Garage Door Service. And we will find them a position to help us out.
Including snow removal if it stays the way it's been.
Oh.
But highlights this year? I mean, we've already heard about the special instrument.
Well, our Grand Marshal is Governor-elect Kurt Dillard. He's a Grand Marshal, and he has assured us after he wins, he'll come back, which that would be something for our parade to have a governor, a reigning governor. IC Met Conception volleyball team, state champion, they're going to be in there. We know these knuckleheads are going to do something that they're not telling me yet. They have something up their sleeves.
The York Band will be back.
York Band will be
Absolutely.
back. We have 9 pipe bands already signed up. We have the 12 Shriner units, and it'll be a great day. It's going to be 70 degrees.
And
Blue skies.
Elmhurst, our kind of town, will do cable coverage. I went on their website day before yesterday and went on last year's parade, and there like over 1,000 views of that program on their website, and that's not counting who else might have watched it other places, let alone when it was on cable television. So I mean, you know, my guess is some of that's people who were there and they want to see how they looked on TV, but a lot of people who can't be there and can access the parade otherwise. The pipe band units are absolutely awe-inspiring in many cases. Their placement in the parade at various points, you can just see the crowds kind of stand up a little straighter when some of those groups go by.
They practice a little bit more than these guys.
Anyone can blow a pipe. It takes a real man to walk a parade with a kazoo, Jim.
It's true. It's true.
I think the three of you, particularly you, Jim, should be commended for the work on the parade. I know you get a lot of help, and I recognize that, but leadership is still leadership. And
Thank you.
it is a parade that's been embraced by the community. It's been embraced by all of the appropriate entities that need to approve and get behind an event like that. But I remember former Mayor Marcucci talking about how he got to be Irish and took full advantage of that when he had the opportunity. I suspect that the mayors since then have done the same.
They all seem to have some ancestor that's Irish.
Absolutely. Last thoughts, real quick. We're going to close down. Last thoughts about the parade on March the 8th.
I am hoping for a very warm, sunny day, unlike Mr. O'Connor, who was hoping for a cold, sunny day.
I look forward to meeting Bill Murray this year.
I just hope everybody has a great day.
And I'm sure they will. On that note, we're going to close Elmhurst Time Travelers. We've been talking about the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Elmhurst, which again is on March the 8th, coming right up. Appreciate the three of you joining me. This is Elmhurst Time Travelers. I'm Ken Bartels, and we'll see you again.
Hi, I'm John Quigley, President and CEO of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry. In these challenging economic times, it's imperative that our residents and businesses band together to not only shop Elmhurst, but buy Elmhurst whenever possible. We have great stores in our city center, Spring Road, Butterfield Road, York and Villette Streets, St. Charles and Route 83, North Avenue and Lake Street, along North York and even Grand Avenue. I ask for your help. Let's keep our tax dollars in Elmhurst.